Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Do you struggle with being negative? Most people struggle with being negative. Being positive takes action. Using simple positive actions will allow you to win each day. Being negative is a discharge in 3 key areas. Number 1, your mindset to achieve your goals. Number 2, your influence on self and others. And number 3, your ability to learn and grow. Implementing simple positive actions into your life will allow you to win each day. Being positive takes action, so let's work to be positive. To receive a weekly video email from me on one simple positive action, subscribe to the series by going to chargepodcast.com to get the link to register today. Life is short, so why live your life by default when you can live your life by design? Make it a great day. Welcome, Chargers. We're glad to have you back for another great podcast. I'm telling you, we've got some great guests that we're bringing up for this fourth quarter of 2022. Now, the thing is, what do you need to accomplish in 2022 yet that you really will propel you forward? Remember, I've talked about the last couple episodes, setting up the fourth quarter to finalize some things that you want, but getting yourself prepared for 2023 is critical because then you can jump out and you can really get started. So that's what we're going to do. And our guest today is going to help us think a little deeper about what our purpose is. But before I go there, Dr. Akhtar, will you share with the listeners what problem will you solve for them today?
So, one of the things I want our listeners to understand that we should not be in the business of solving problems. We should actually be in the business of creating a future. And what I want to have all of our listeners understand is every single one of us can imagine how we can make each of us better on this planet and for humanity. So purpose is what I'm going to share, how you can articulate your purpose so that you can actually become much more influential in everything that you do that goes beyond just an impact on yourself, but for the greater good.
Well, listeners, I hope you're as excited I am about this podcast because I tell you, what a great time to be thinking about that as we're in the fourth quarter, launching into 2023. And today I've got with us Dr. Akhtar Badshah, and he's a chief catalyst at Catalytic Innovators Group, where he advises organizations and individuals to catalyze their strategy focused on social and philanthropic investments. He also conducts purpose mindset leadership workshops with organizations to help individuals articulate their strengths and values and craft their purpose statement. Dr. Akhtar, welcome to the Charge Podcast.
Thank you very much, Gary. Looking forward to this conversation.
Well, let's start it off because you set it up very well about what problem we're going to solve. So let's really talk about this because I want to go to kind of the generic before we get deep into it. What would you define purpose mindset is?
So we are all focused on a growth mindset, right? So we've been asked to move from a fixed mindset where fixed mindset is rewarded for what you know. Growth mindset, you get rewarded for what you do and what you learn. Purpose mindset is what is the intention behind what you're doing. It is not about doing things the right way, but it is picking the right thing to do. So purpose is the why. Why do we exist, right? So I am more interested in us all, every single individual on this planet, to discover their why. And then through that discovery of their why, figure out the how. So that to me is purpose, is the discovery of yourself and your why.
Yeah, I love that because it's getting into the why do you want to really accomplish it?
So you're truly digging deeper into the inside versus, I just want to make a change, or I want to have a more, growth mindset, but you're changing, now you have a reason behind why you want to do that. So how do you start that process to create that purpose statement to get to that discovery?
So one of the things that, I exemplify in my book is the 5 principles behind purpose mindset. First and foremost, work from your strengths. We spend way too much time focusing on our deficiencies, but every single one of us has some strengths. Articulate your strengths, discover your strengths, write them down. By the way, this is a neurological phenomena, because when people get strokes, they will actually get the patients to focus on the side that is strong rather than the side that is weak, and it tricks the brain. So our brain reacts much more effectively when we are working from our strengths. So that's the first, right? So work from your strengths, articulate them, write them down, write down 3 strengths that you have, and then focus on it, right? We have obviously more than 3 strengths, but we can't use more than 3 strengths at any given time. So be cognizant of that. Second, put on a lens of abundance. We work with the scarcity lens. If only we had this, I could do that. But most entrepreneurs, most successful folks have just started. Start somewhere, and slowly it will grow. Third, it is not about the efficiency of how you get things done, but it is the effectiveness of what you're doing.
Oh, true.
Right? So focus on the impact. Efficiency will come. But most of the time in the work, we are actually trying to be, if I can become much more efficient, I can save time, I can save resources, I can save money. But at the end of the day, it is the effectiveness that actually helps you get to all of that. Fourth, it is about igniting movements. We are no longer in the age of just creating organizations. We are igniting movements. Amazon is a movement. Uber is a movement. Airbnb is a movement. TikTok is a movement. All of these new industries have appended how we think about what should be an outcome. So it's now these organizations have attached an emotions to what you're doing, right? So you actually get compelled to be part of that. I want to use Uber. Everybody wants to use Uber or Lyft or Airbnb. And the skills required are very different. Organization just becomes a vessel for the movement, but then you need to not just be a manager, you need to learn how to be a synchronizer, you need to learn how to be a catalyst, you need to learn how to be a conductor. And these are just very different things. And then eventually the piece that is very important is how do we be on that journey from just being generous to becoming empathetic and compassionate? And that's a journey. And once you become compassionate, that's when you focus not on yourself, but on the greater good. So how do we move from the me to the we? So for the listeners, these 5 principles are actually very simple in some ways. Just keep it, chart this out, write it up somewhere, and then see whether you're doing that, right? How are you changing in the way we show up for life?
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many things that we could go to talk about in that area, but I'm going to go to number 5 and to the me versus we, because as a society, we're changing, but we need to change more in this because people get so tied up in themselves, and it's hard to have empathic when we're tied up in that. So how do we start to make that change from the me to the we?
So the way I kind of articulate it and try and get, my listeners and my folks that participate in our workshops is to really start creating a journal, a purpose mindset journal, which just has 4 things that you focus on. One is yourself, one is your family, one is your community, and then finally your work. And then start jotting down every month, what did you do where you were able to apply your purpose your strengths and your values for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your work. And once you start putting that down, you will automatically see that you have started becoming much more conscious about the we, about the greater good,
Sure.
and not just focused on the self. And there is nothing wrong focusing on the self, which is why I kind of list out the first focus should be on you, the individual, but then your family, then your community, then your work. And then many a times we kind of reverse this thing because we get so caught up in our work that just drives our life.
Yeah, I see that, because the thing is if we don't take care of ourselves, there's no way you can take care of family, community, and even in your workplace.
Exactly. And purpose is just a way by which you are focused on yourself, but for the betterment of society, not just for the betterment of you.
I love that. So how do you talked about first, we've got to work on ourselves, but how do we build some of that purpose accountability in so we know that we're being transparent and that our purpose is so crucial to us?
So I'll give you an exercise for your listeners to do, and hopefully they will actually send this back to me. I'm on LinkedIn, you can join me there and share. So what I want you all to do is write down 3 words that exemplify your strengths, right? I am confident, I am, a hard worker, I am an analytical person. Whatever you think are your 3 strengths, write those down. Then write down 3 values that drive you. Is family a value? Giving is a value. Diplomat is a value. Compassionate is a value. So pick the 3 values that exemplify you. And then I want you to write a sentence, which is your purpose statement. Purpose is the impact that you want to see. Values is why you want to see that impact. And strengths is how you will achieve that impact. And I do this exercise with my organizations all the time. And then I just completed one for my students yesterday. And we've had about 4,000 people that have gone through this now. And I'll just read out a purpose statement what one of the students wrote, just to kind of get a sense. Right? My purpose is to help in the creation of a fairer, equitable spaces by raising awareness of social issues and encouraging empathy in others. That's a purpose statement.
Yeah.
My purpose is to work as a community to help myself and people to build on their strengths by creating a supportive avenue. Purpose doesn't have to, it's not about charity. It's not about giving. It is actually about you. A barista in a coffee shop has a purpose. A custodian in a school has a purpose. An orderly in a hospital has a purpose. A bus driver has a purpose. A CEO may not have a purpose. So what I want all of you to do is to write down that statement, share it with your listeners. Let's then talk about it. How are we going to apply that for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your work? Now, your work and your purpose should not be fully aligned. If it is, then you're a robot. But there should be connections. So you should be focused on where are the connections, where are the strengths, where are the values, how do you connect it? And then check every month how you've been able to apply that to your work, how you've applied that to your community, how you've applied that to your family, to yourself. That's when you actually start feeling that you've actually done something and contributed to the well-being of society. And so that's the thing. Purpose is not just derived from work. Purpose is derived from where you show up in life. And work and your organization are just 2 spokes of a far more complicated hub that we all live in.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is, and once we find that, the intersections connect.
Absolutely.
That's what's so exciting, because you see with what you're doing for yourself, but family and then community, and like you said, work, they're aligning, they're setting up, and it really creates a great clarity. And it makes it really easy then to move forward, to continue the process and to even get deeper into what you want to really accomplish in life.
Yeah, one of the things that I do is I go for a walk every day. I walk 5 miles just because, I just every single day, whatever the weather, whatever the situation, I will walk. and I make it a point to smile at somebody. It's actually very fascinating. I have a trail right behind my house and I go on a walk. And there are times where, it's the 10th time I pass the same person on the trail, they will actually smile back at me. Then every time we pass, they start the smile first. It's that building of your community to actually understand that we live with others. Even I walk because I want to be away from everybody else, but my eyes still notice it's so much easier to smile than to frown.
Yes.
Because you're just lighting up the other person and they're lighting you up. And that little moment actually connects you that you're not on your own. And that's the important thing.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. It's interesting you say that. I went on vacation and I think it was in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was going out to do a run. And right before that, I read a book. I can't remember the exact name of the book right off, but they said to try to experiment something. So my headsets were not charged up, so I couldn't use my headset. So instead, I decided I was going to say hello and to how many people and see if they would respond back. And I took any response, even a grunt, and I would count it. And it was amazing. You wouldn't believe there was over 80 out of the 100 people. I stopped counting at 100, but I was about finished with the run anyway. But out of 100 people, I had 80 people make some sort of response when I said good morning. But the difference was I tried to look them in the eye. And some of them I was passing by. So even when I passed by, I couldn't look them in the eye. But I'd say good morning. And over 80 people responded to me. And when I got done that run, it was the best run I've ever had because, of course, I was out of myself.
Precisely. And that is exactly what happens, right? You pass by and now so many people will wave at me, good morning, good afternoon, enjoy your day.
Yeah.
I don't know them. They don't know me. We don't know the names. We don't know, except we recognize each other. So it's just this little habits that we build, the atomic habits. I read the book, Atomic Habits. It kind of tells you how, and to me, purpose is building that habit. This is not, oh, I wore a new shirt, so I know exactly what I look like. This takes time. Purpose takes time to build in you, and you have to be committed to it.
Yeah, it's not a short-term gain. It's a long-term gain, and
exactly.
It's the small increments that make the big success. Just like James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits. So, what do you mean by doing things the right way versus doing the right thing?
So let me give you an example.
Sure.
In my book, I talk about it. Claire Devi, who is a former Microsoft employee, she became the CEO of this nonprofit organization called SightLife, which does cornea transplants. She came in, typical Microsoft, analysis. I got to analyze everything before I start. And she kind of went through the analysis and then she kind of said, look, the cost of doing, if I can reduce the cost of doing these transplants, then we can do more transplants, right? We don't have the resources like Microsoft has, which is lots of resources. But even in Microsoft, right, every group has its own little budget. So the question then is that if I can actually become efficient in doing these transplants, we can do more. So she was going down that path with the surgeons and others to actually increase efficiency, and then quickly realized that if she went down that route, she would lose everybody. So she flipped it, and she actually took some of the best performing surgeons and said, I'm actually going to give you time off to go to other parts of the world and train surgeons there. And they started doing that. They suddenly found their purpose. And in doing so, she increased the efficiency by bringing the cost down from $600 a surgery to $134. But what happened was effectiveness. Mm-hmm. So the focus was doing the right thing, not doing things the right way. She eventually discovered that the right thing to do was to build capacity, not cost cutting. And by building capacity, she actually achieved that same goal of becoming efficient.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's the thing, is looking at it differently and being willing. And when you find that within, when you're willing to look deeper at that sense of accomplishment, I tell you, there's so much we could dig into, Dr. Badshah, because you've got so much information out there. The one thing I want to tell them is there's a book out there. So if we've kind of interest you now, one thing, check out his book. It's Purpose Mindset, How Microsoft Inspires Employees and Alumni to Change the World. But check out his book, because I know there's a lot of great information in there. I haven't got completely through it, did a quick review of it, but I love what you're sharing with the people, because number one, it's not just you and your purpose, but when you start this with your teams, because we've got a lot of small business owners here, and you start letting them find their purpose and they interconnect with your business, that's when magic happens, doesn't it?
Exactly. I mean, I tell entrepreneurs all the time, you're not selling a widget. You're actually selling a purpose. Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do. People buy the why you do it. Everybody wants to get connected to a much higher cause. So the thing to understand for your listeners is, it is not about who you want to be. It is about who you want to serve. How do we figure that out? How do we tell our kids and all of us, who do you want to serve? Students ask me all the time, I want to be a CEO. How do I go about doing that? And I ask them why, and they don't have an answer. And the other thing is that, we are not a problem to be solved. We focus way too much time on solving problems. Humans are a mystery to be embraced. Embrace everybody. We all have something to contribute. Bridge across people.
I love that. I just love that. I want the Chargers to think about this one. And what a great time. We're in fourth quarter. You're thinking about what you want to accomplish, what you want to do in 2023. Well, why not start now? Who do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve? And you answer that question and then put the resources of your strengths behind that. You become kind of unstoppable in that area. I think we could continue the conversation for a long time, Dr. Badshah, but I truly appreciate your time. But why don't you share with them their website, and then also you do some workshops on this. So if you have people that's interested, give them a little bit of information about that.
Yeah, so so the website is, www.purpose-mindset.org. But reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. These workshops that we do, we've now done over 50 of them with different organizations, large companies, small companies, institutions, government organizations, nonprofit organizations. It's about 2 hours. And we take your folks through the fact of crafting a purpose statement and then showing them how to effectively utilize it in their groups so that the work that you do become much better. But more importantly, it is a different way to open doors to people and actually start understanding the value every one of us can bring. And these workshops have been incredibly valuable and successful. We've had a lot of fun time. We've done this with clients in Japan, with clients in Egypt, with clients in Latin America, Europe. And, people are crafting these in their own languages. And it's really empowering, where people can actually articulate their purpose, but then share it with everybody else in their room. Yes. And listen to what everybody else's purpose is. And now you suddenly find that if we can really all just apply our strengths and values, how much more impact we can have.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that. And we'll have in show notes, purpose-mindset.org. We'll have that in show notes so you can get there. His LinkedIn contacts, we'll have that information there at chargepodcast.com, because we know our people that are listening to the Charge podcast are probably not sitting there waiting to write it down. So we'll make it easy for you. Just go to chargepodcast.com. Those links will be right there. And also check out his book. We'll have a link there that you can go to purchase his book right away on that area too. Dr. Badshah, before I let you go, I have 2 questions that I like to ask every guest. They're kind of what I call the recharge round. The first one is, the podcast is named Charge for a reason. That's a mantra of mine. Create habits around real goals every day. What habit do you think's led to success in your life?
So, I think that the one habit that I have is that I'm open to take new challenges. I'm an architect by training, and I taught architecture for 10 years. And then I do things that I'm not qualified to do. But that's because somebody asked me to do something and I said, yes, I'll do it, even though I did not know anything about it. So first, learn, be open-minded, take risks.
I love that.
That allows you to keep yourself. 2 years ago, I didn't know that I'm going to be talking about purpose. I was writing a book. But from that process of writing a book, I actually got this aha moment of there is something here for everybody to learn. And that's how we should be living our lives. So discovery is very important.
Yes. Well, I love that. Well, we've all had failures. The second question is or would love a do-over. If you look back and there's something that you would want to change, what would it be?
So I think that one needs to embrace failures. Failures should not lead to a do-over. Failure should lead to learnings to say, I'll move on. We're going to fail. I mean, one thing is guaranteed in life. Once you're born, you will fail.
Yes.
And then you will die. Everything else is under your control. No kid walked by just coming out of the womb, right? We had to crawl, we had to fall down, we had to get up, and we picked ourselves up. Every time we fell, we cried, and we picked ourselves up. The question is to pick yourself up. It is not to reflect back and say, what if I had done this differently? It is more important to say, why did that happen? And how do I do something different? We've all had failures. I've had failures. Everybody has failures. I'm a horrible student, right? I mean, but you learn. I wanted to be a nuclear scientist. So I figured out I was not going to hack it. So I didn't try and focus on that. I said, I'll do something else where I can actually be much more effective. I found my strengths. I found my values. I stopped focusing on who I want to be, but I started focusing on who you want to serve. And so failures kind of get you to understand what your strengths are, what your values are, and get you to refocus on that and move towards that.
Well, Chargers, I tell you, we've got you thinking now. This is one of those podcasts you may have to go back and re-listen to and really dig deep, because the thing is, who do you want to serve? Think about that as you go forward in the end of 2022 and going into 2023. Define that. Go through his philosophy of how you can set up your own personal statement, your own purpose statement. I've had mine for a while, but you've made me, Dr. Badshah, really tell myself to relook at that and take a relook, because I think I have who I'm serving, but I need to really make sure that I've got it correctly and stuff. Because first, knowing that self, family, community, and then the work, putting it all together in each of those areas. So I thank you so much for joining us on the Charge podcast.
Thank you so much, Gary, and I'm really looking forward to it. And again, listeners, if you go through this exercise, craft your purpose statement, share it with us, put it on our website, send me an email. I would love to, we are sharing this around the world. We are inspiring people to do this. Do it with your kids, do it with your family, do it around the dining table. It's a fun exercise.
Yeah, and you can see it's his passion. So please check it out. Go to his website, purpose-mindset.org, or check him out on LinkedIn. We're going to have all that in show notes at chargepodcast.com. Chargers, now that's the challenge I give you. Create your purpose statement. Go forward and do this instead of just listening to this podcast and saying, well, that was great information. Let's take action and put down in the action that you're going to create your purpose statement. I don't think you have to do it overnight, but give yourself some time and tell yourself, going into 2023, I'm going to have my purpose statement defined because I'm going to know who I serve. Chargers, come back next week and we'll have another great guest for you. Remember, like and share this podcast and let others know about it. Make it a great day. Thanks for joining us.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.